We can start now.
Moja sestra išla za pani Polhorovou a poprosila ju, aby ona intervenovala u manžela, aby mňa z toho zoznam škrtli. Čo sa aj stalo. Že ja som v tom čase nevedel o tom. Mne to moja sestra povedala vyše 20 rokov po vojne. To je taká trauma, ktorá ma v podstate tlačí podniesť. Lebo niekto iný zahynul namiesto mňa. Ono to bolo tak, že každý transport, ktorý odchádzal zo Slovenska, mal 1000 deportovaných. V Novákoch v tom čase nebolo 1000 väzňov, tak sa deportovalo zo Serede 600 a z Novákov 400. Ich mená sa vyvolalo, oni nastúpili na táborovom Apelplaci. Bolo také vymedzené námestíčko. Pochodovali na nedalekú nováckú železničnú stanicu, to je asi kilometr. Tam ich naložili do dobytčích vagónov a deportovali. Väčšinou tie deportačné vlaky išli do Zvardoňa a tam ich potom prevzali Nemci. Novácky tábor sa nedá porovnať so Svinčimom. Absolútne nie. Tam bolo 17 dielní, 17 možností, ako zamestnať väzňov. Na najväčšie dielne boli konfekcia, krajčírstvo, šili uniformy pre armádu, pre políciu, pre hasičov. Pomerne veľká stolárska dielňa, čaľovníctvo bolo pomerne veľké, sa to robil nábytok, fotelky a elegantné prostriedky do bytov a takéto veci. Za minimálne ceny sa tam vyprodukovali veľké pridané hodnoty, koberce, chémia, opravovali sa tam poľnohospodárske stroje. Okrem toho ten novácky tábor prinášal miliónové zisky pre slovenský štát. Dokonca vláda mala záujem na tom, keď prestali deportácie, aby ten tábor fungoval, aby produkoval. Potom bola tzv. Kartonáž, ktorej mohlo byť okolo 100 väzňov. Tam sa robili rozličné veci z papiera. Potrebovali zamestnať aj starých ľudí a okrem toho museli zamestnať aj mladých chlapcov a dievčatá, ktoré ešte povedzme nemohli pracovať v kamenolome, tak ich zamestnávali v tej kartonáži a tam robili všelijaké škatulky pre hodinky, pre klenoty a také veci ozdobné. 12-ročné deti vyrábali tenisové siete, volejbalové siete, ping-pongové sietky. A deti boli zamestnané, netúlali sa po objekte. Moja sestra išla.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to RU Talks. My name is Lilia Kudelia, and I'm the curator for Young Visual Artists Award Program at Residency Unlimited in New York. What we just watched was an excerpt from a project, Found Photographs, which tells the story of one of the largest forced labor camps in Slovakia, from town Nováky, that was organized during World War II. We will return to this work later during our conversation with the artist, Daniela Krajcova, whom we have a distinct pleasure of speaking with today. Before diving in, I want to thank the wonderful team of Residency Unlimited for helping putting this event together. And our profound thanks go to Trust for Mutual Understanding for their support of Daniela's participation at Residency Unlimited program. We are tuning in from Bratislava in Slovakia, Seattle, and Dallas. And I know there are many of you joining from other cities in the world. We will speak for about 40 minutes, which will include screenings of Daniela's selected works. And we want to give ample time for a discussion after that. So please be free to drop your questions as we go in the Q&A function that you see at the bottom of the screen. and we will address them right after our conversation. I'm thrilled to moderate today's panel together with Janelle Engelstad, who is the founding director of Make Art with Purpose. Janelle's organization produces projects at the intersection of art and other disciplines, including science, technology, education, and social justice activism. Her own work has been exhibited and produced in collaboration with many institutions in the US and in Europe, including ACT MIT, Emmon Carter Museum of American Art, California Museum of Photography, Dallas Museum of Art, International Center of Photography, Lajnia Center for Contemporary Art in Gdańsk, Stanica Žilina Zarečie in Slovakia, and many more. Janelle is currently a visiting lecturer and artist in residence at the Institute for Innovation and Global Engagement at University of Washington, Tacoma. We are also extremely grateful for the partnership with Oskar Čepan Award, which last year was granted to Daniela. Today's event completes her residency at RU. And on this note, I turn the floor over to Lucia Gavilova, who will introduce Daniela in more detail. Lucia is the curator and program manager for this annual prize for Slovak visual artists. She also currently serves as the curator for collections of modern and contemporary art at the Slovak National Gallery. Lucia.
Thank you, Lilia, for your introduction. I will continue in it, but just very briefly, because there are more important contents in this debate than that have to be communicated, and I hope you all will like it. But thank you once again. These contents will be connected to Slovak artist Daniela Krajčová. I would say a very special one artist. Slovak artist. Daniela was born in 1983 in Žilina, and she's continuously a very quiet somehow, but at the same time very solid, specific, and visible part of Slovak visual art. Quiet in the sense or in the style of how she works and creates her art, which used to be very participative and engaged in her earlier works, but on the other hand, she's also totally able of a very intense and consistent working alone in isolation, for example, during her maternity leave. And just due to art pieces and projects on this topic, a topic of a mother of 3 children and woman, like to be a woman like an artist, she became last year laureate of Slovak Art Award for Visual Artists named Oskar Čepan Award. And that is also a reason why I was invited to this debate as a director of this award to introduce its winner from the pandemic 2020 year, which is my greatest pleasure to introduce Daniela. And why I'm mentioning this pandemic moment has a reason as well, that Oskar Čepan Award, which exists on the Slovak art scene from 1996 and belongs to the art awards with longest tradition in Slovakia, is part of a more large network called Young Visual Artist Awards, and in this connection, also very close, we are very in close cooperation with the Residency Unlimited program in New York under the precious guest curator leadership of Lilia Kudelia, who focuses on the 2-month residencies for the laureates at Residency Unlimited since 2015. Residency stays in this program is one of the parts of the laureates win, but due to the pandemic circumstances, Daniela, as a first awarded artist, decided to take part in a digital form or online form, or how to say, and it worked very well. So at least my feeling is that it worked very well. And also, this all is thanks to Residency Unlimited and your effort. And I'm glad that Daniela is here with us and that we have a chance to witness a discussion about her work with a curator, um, uh, Janelia, Janelle Engelstad. Janelia, I give you a word.
Thank you, Lucia. And thank you to everybody at Residency Unlimited for producing this event today and for including me. It's a great honor to be here. So one of the salient features of Daniela's work is a poetic attention to how other people, whether family members, refugees, or strangers, relate to each other. This attention goes back to her earliest work, including Magpie in 2006, Length of Stay 2007, Movables 2008, and Slovak for Asylum Seekers in 2010. Through drawing, painting, and animation, Daniela invites us to engage with social and familial narratives that prompt a review of our own personal histories. This contemplation can in turn constitute opportunities for a reimagining of our own histories and a changing of our positions and points of view. Indeed, one of the questions that arises from this early work is, what is the viewer's position or point of view, and how do we construct meaning, empathy, and understanding from this place? Daniela, could you begin by talking about how this early work, Magpie, is for you an elemental work, which is in many ways a foundation from for your subsequent work and which your other work evolved from?
When I did the work Magpie, I was a student at the university, and it was at the time when I was traveling a lot. I had a residency in Mexico. I was very young. I was 20 years old, and I had an experience with different mentality, and also I had a friend who came to visit me to Slovakia, and I could see Slovakia from totally different perspective, and I was quite shocked that that was the same country as where I was born, but I could see it by the eyes of somebody who is from different culture, and I started to think about the questions of different cultures and maybe racism and not tolerance of otherness. And so I did this short animation, which is called Magpie. It's about a child which falls down on the floor, and there was a small sheet, and its skin became dark, and the family started to clean it and hide it. And it's about our maybe mentality that how things should be, how we should be, how the others see us, and I will show it to you now. Share a screen. Okay, so I will show you just small excerpt, maybe 3 minutes. Um, um,
Thank you.
Maybe I could continue that after that work. I went also for some residencies to France, and then there I came to one cultural center, and they worked with immigrants, and there I did one work about refugees and immigrants in France, and then I came back to Slovakia and decided to work more about this topic about the refugees in Slovakia. So that was my story, how I came to that topics of immigration and mix of the cultures and yeah.
Yeah, we see a real intimacy in this work and much of your work. And there's so much power in how you render the subjects through drawing and animation and the soundtrack for your animations, which can include music, the turning pages of a book, people talking. And often there is the added element of how the work interacts in the environment, such as in Movables and Next to Red Sea from the same period, and as well as a collaborative element often with the community. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your process and how all these elements come together for you.
Yeah, the process is that I'm inspired by some topic, or I choose somebody who I would like to know more, and I decide to make work about some person or some minority or some group of the people. I've worked also with some of my family members, like my grandmother or my mother, or I work with Roma children, with refugee men or women, and generally I make interview with them, or I meet with them more times. I make maybe we walk or we just talk, and then I do some recording. I edit this audio recording, and then I decide about the visual side. My very common medium is animation, so I'm trying to use some kind of like classical drawing or painting style to make a visual part of that work. And I try to illustrate somehow the talking of that person, or I in some works I used some space, for example, subway under the bus station in Topolčany, where I did painting on the wall on the subway. So either I use the audio recording or conversation with some person. I use some images which I have from that person and I redraw it, or I use the space which is related to that story or that theme. So this is the work which I do as me, as independent artist. And I also like collaboration with somebody else. So, for example, the project Caravan, which is a participatory project with Roma children, which I do with Otto Hudec. This project is our common project, where I have a partner, like artistic partner, who I can speak what we will do. We can discuss, we can come to some compromise. So, and this project is more participatory. I don't use my visual style, my own drawing, but we use the drawings and surrounding of the children, Roma children, where we go with a special caravan, which we remade for as a filmmaking studio for our children to create animations. We have their blackboard. We have their blackboard where they draw, or we have some small wooden 3D objects where which they can move and paint. So we let the children to create their own stories about their everyday life. We want to show them in normal way, not as a victims or not as some poor minority, but as normal children which have their own dreams, which have their own activities, friends, school. So we in this participatory projects, I don't use so much my own visual style, but we use just the drawings and the surroundings of the children. Yeah, I will show you some pictures of Project Caravan. Now, this is the project about my grandmother. This is one project about one woman which I met in France during this residence in France. And that is the project Caravan, which I was talking about. This is in Lunik, in city Košice, which is like the biggest community, Roma community in Slovakia. But we traveled through many cities and communities in Slovakia since 2013 till 2019. This is already a different project. Yeah, so this is Project Caravan, which I did with collaboration with authorities.
While you're showing these, Daniela, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the impact that Project Caravan had within the Roma communities, as well as in the greater Slovak population. I know that you and Otto created several exhibitions from this work, not only within the communities in their community centers, but also in galleries and different museums and even pop-up events in squares. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that and the impact.
Mm-hmm. Maybe much bigger impact have the social workers which work with the children daily, because we came to that communities always just for a few days, like 3, 4, 5 days. So maybe the impact is not so big, but we brought to children some new way how to create, how to visualize their ideas, their stories, how to express themselves. So maybe we gave them some inspiration to think about themselves, their dreams. We help them to create short videos and short animations, and then we presented that animations in the community for them, but also we presented them in the public space for the majority in Slovakia, for example, in some big square in Košice or in Bratislava or in some galleries. So we try to connect the world of that Roma children with the world of Slovak people, or to come them in touch. So yeah.
Thank you. I'll pass the floor to Lilia.
Yeah, like thinking of collaborative ethos of your work, Daniela, I wanted also to shift again our attention to your films, and again think about the protagonists of your films, who are indeed real people. As you already mentioned, these are family members, witnesses of collectivization in Slovakia in 1950s. You work with refugees and migrant laborers. And these animation works that you create provide a space for their oral testimonies. They amplify and shine new light on their personal histories. This image that you're showing now, brigade workers, for example, the viewer remains like focused on the anonymous voices of railroad construction workers who were employed by the government, I believe by the government, right, in 1947, 48. And you meditatively transform like one image by another, those archival photographs that you overpaint with white and black lines, and it lasts for 90 minutes and captures attention. Then another work, Nachtjen, which we're seeing on the screen now, it's a 13 minutes long animation that features the voice of your cousin who works as a nurse for seniors in Vienna. We're also gonna see one of the most recent films, Fart Action, that very poignantly illustrates the personal story of Somalian single mother who lives in Slovakia. So thinking about this, I wonder, what does it mean for you to engage with these other individuals' memories and their daily experiences? Do you find it necessary to consult scholarly sources, investigate like social realities deeper, or check historical facts even while interweaving their narratives into your work, into your films?
Mm-hmm. I think that in my work, at the beginning, I was maybe working with my experience, and later I started to work with the experience of other people, because it brought me bigger distance from the story, and also I was interested in these social topics, stories of the minorities, and stories of other people, because of I find it interesting to compare the situation of that person with, for example, my situation, or I think the viewer who can see that work will compare or will think about the position of the person who talks, and it makes him to think about it can make him to think about the situation of that person. It can bring him some empathy, or and my aim is to give voice to that person who are at the border, in the margin of the society. So they may be invisible, and I give them voice, and I make them more visible. That is my aim, to make the people to think more about the people who are maybe not so visible, but it's important to think about also their situation, because it's always helpful to not to think just about ourselves, but to think around, to have empathy with others too. So maybe I will show you the video about the Somalian woman, which is one of my recent works.
And meanwhile, while you're putting this together, I am thinking of issues of invisibility. I think it's important for us also to know maybe some facts. So Slovakian population is close to 5.5 million, right? And based on the recent statistics, only like 2.75% of the population are foreigners, and the migration started dramatically rising in your country after Slovakia's admission to European Union in 2004. From what I understand, the most commonly reported reasons for applicants seeking to relocate to Slovakia is for work, but there are also these arranged arrivals that when people typically utilize refugee camps in Slovakia as a backup when neighboring camps, for example, in Austria, face added strain. Think about the really tiny percentage of these people, and how complicated it may be for them to integrate into the larger society.
Maybe because Slovakia is post-socialist country, so still it's not used to have a lot of foreigners. Some people still don't speak English, for example. it's very difficult for them to live here because if they don't speak Slovak, it's very difficult. They maybe have problems to communicate with the people, and they really have to have some strong reason to live here. But it's coming better, as you said, that with the time it's coming better. So I will show you the example of the animation Fart Action. It's about Somalian mother who lives alone here in Slovakia with her small son since 7 years ago, and I was interested about her situation as she's a refugee, because she's a refugee. She came from Somalia, and at the same time she's a mother. So how the role of mother makes it more difficult for her as a refugee, but at the same time it makes it maybe easier to integrate because her son goes to school, and so I was thinking about how is the position of the mother when it's not just Slovak mother, but at the same time she's a refugee. So I will show you a small excerpt of that movie.
Týždeň alebo mesiac, alebo strátiš aj rok. Teraz sme s mojím synom K všade spolu. Musím byť vždy pri ňom. Prvé 4 roky som vôbec nepracovala, lebo K bol malý. Žiadala som o miesto v škôlke, ale nedostala som, lebo bolo veľa detí. Nemala som tu rodinu, kamarátky, nikoho. Veľmi ťažké bolo, ak som chcela ísť niečo kúpiť, musela som ísť s ním. Ak som chcela ísť na úrad alebo niekam inam, vždy som musela ísť s K. Nebola som zvyknutá hľadať adresu cez Google, bolo to pre mňa ťažké. Hľadala som to s K, bola zima, to boli najťažšie veci. Moja mama je vždy smutná kvôli mne, hovorí mi, ty to máš najťažšie. Tam nemáš rodinu, tam nemáš nič, ty si sama. Ona to mala trochu lepšie, lebo bola vo svojej krajine, bola tam naša rodina. Sami sme chodili do školy, sami sme chodili domov. Keď sme sa vrátili zo školy, niekedy sme išli domov alebo sme išli navštíviť maminu. Ale vždy sme išli za mamou, lebo ona varila obed. V Somálsku bola vojna. Stratili sme sestru. Najskôr sme o nej nevedeli nič. Neskôr sme počuli, že cestovala do Etiópie, potom do Ameriky. Moja sestra bývala v Amerike a pomohla mi. Kúpila mi letenku zo Somálska do Ruska. Potom som išla z Ruska na Ukrajinu. Pre mňa to bolo komplikované, ťažké. Bola som tehotná, mladá, nemala som tam žiadnu rodinu. Vždy, keď som išla k doktorovi, išla som s policajtkou. Keď som rodila v nemocnici, celý čas bola so mnou policajtka. To bola sranda, všetky doktorky sa pýtali, čo sa stalo. Hovorili, ona je migrantka. Dostala som sa do tábora. To bol
Yeah, maybe that is enough.
Such a moving work. So in this instance, you narrate her story, right?
Yeah, I narrated her story because she didn't want to show her. She didn't want to. I had the recording with her, but she wanted to hide her identity. So she didn't want to be identified with the story. So I narrated I decided to narrate it by myself, but I like it because it becomes more anonymous, and it protects her somehow. Yeah.
My next question is about motivations, like what drives your new work. So there is a suggestion that among some art historians that the use of gender-sensitive theoretical frameworks is relatively new in Slovakian contemporary art, and that the local audience just recently started perceiving gender as a relevant category. Susanna Stepkova, for example, in her book Czech Feminism, argues that this insistent anthropological and sociological analysis of the local gender issues in Eastern European countries, in general, overshadows their articulation by the visual arts. But what we just saw in Fart Action video and other works by you, in my opinion, exemplifies this idea that you managed to very thoughtfully interweave these exact anthropological, sociological, political narratives into your art practice, whether this would be a challenging life of refugee mother or testimonies of Slovakian nurses who provide care to elderly people in Vienna, or domestic violence stories illustrated in your project Shared Threads that we see on the screen. In your recent work, moreover, there were just images of Behind the Railing and Playsides works. If you could go back to it, maybe. You decide to employ the observation of your own kids at play when they are in open spaces and in urban areas. And it becomes an important component of your artistic work. So yeah, I wonder what exactly defines the process of creation of these works for you. Are you really motivated by self-reflexivity, which is considered an essential feminist tool, or is it rather a documentarian approach as a more universal methodology that's appealing to you?
I think that since the moment when I started to work with the topic of motherhood, and it became more autobiographical, because I'm in the situation that I'm mother of 3 small children, and I still try to work, and I in that projects like Behind the Rails or play sites, I was observing my kids playing in different places in the city. So for me, it was important that that invisible work of mothers when they are taking care of their kids became my working strategy. That I was filming my children in the public space as they are playing in the places which are not like like place for children, designed for the children, but normal urban places. So, and then I was drawing the places where they were playing, and also I found that mothers on their maternity leave, they often communicate through internet because it's easy for them to communicate because they're somehow isolated at their homes and they can't go so much I don't know, outside to meet or maybe the topics which they share through internet are too intimate to talk about them personally. So I found that it's very interesting that on the internet they can share their experiences about about, for example, stereotype on maternity leave or frustration, or even like the extreme domestic violence, which I think linked to this isolation, which they can experience through their maternity leave. So in the work, shared lines, shared threads, I was trying to redraw the experiences of the mothers during the maternity leave, where they are talking about the stereotype, frustration, or depression, or aggressivity, even domestic violence. I used very simple stylization, that the person are very simple, and you can see just objects from the household, like chairs and table. And for me, it was very important that as a material which I used for these drawings was bed sheets, which I bought from many women through internet. So they are all used, and you can see the marks of this use. That, for example, they are knitted, or there are some embroideries of that woman. And in the recent work, I use these domestic fabrics, textiles, because for me it's symbolic that as I'm talking about the invisible work of mothers in the household, and emotional work when they are taking care of their children, that I use materials which is around them in the household, like bed sheets or covers of pillows, covers of feeder beds, or tablecloths. And recently I was drawing also on the clothes. So somehow it's also autobiographical, because I live this situation, but I'm not using just my experience, but I use the experience of the other women on internet. So in that sense, it's a documentaristic approach. So I think it's somehow combined. If I should answer your question. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you are moving more and more towards working in textiles. This year you've started making new body of work. So I'm also interested to see if there is any continuity between your like the strategies you apply to animation as a medium, as opposed to working in drawing and works on canvas. If you could also show us those pieces that are currently in progress. But
yeah, I see the connection to animation, because for example, I saw a connection to animation even when I was showing you this work about the shared threads, because as I was presenting that works, the drawings on the, I will show you again, this work, the drawing on the bed sheets, I was hanging it on the threads as if I would be hanging the laundry. So the viewer could see every picture in the time. So the pictures were appearing as if there would be some story, but there is not such a linear story in between the pictures. But for me, it was some way of animated image, and also the stylization could refer to animation, because it has the story, or it refers to some situation. And also when I'm doing the recent painting, so I use already canvas, so I'm doing some some repetition of the images, as you have to make many images in the animation. So, but that images are not referring to the story, but more to ornament of some or decoration of some textile, or and also the background which is painted also refers to some fabric in the household. So. I'm trying to express that invisible women work in the household through the through the material, and also through the topics which I'm drawing and painting on.
Okay, thank you, Daniela.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions have come up from the audience, and I invite everyone to please submit any questions that they have. One really relates quickly to or directly to what you were just talking about. How do you decide when you're, or is there a way that you're in process that you decide about if you're going to use animation or drawing or fabric? How do you make those decisions with each work?
It comes out from the process, or animation is good when you have some more like when in the story is some narration, or when you have some person who can narrate, you have some recording with that person, and or I used to work a lot with animation because for me the medium, which is very long, like you have to make many drawings to create the illusion of the moving image. For me, it's the way of like understanding the work better. Like I'm doing the images and I'm thinking about the work, and it's the way how I'm like thinking about the person, maybe. So, but animation needs time for the viewer to see it, and sometimes the fabric you can see it in one moment, so it's maybe more quick. So for me as an author, and also for the viewer to see it, so it's up to the circumstances or up to the project which I'm working with, what is the best. Yeah.
And we also have a question asking which editing software you use for your animation.
What kind of software I use? Yeah. I use very simple softwares like Premiere or After Effects, Adobe After Effects. So that two softwares. But for me, the editing is not so important, because for me the most important part of the work is to do it by my hands. So that's why I use so much like drawing on the paper, drawing on the textile, drawing on the transparent folia, because I prefer to do it by my hands, and then I just take photo or I scan it. And for me, a computer is just the final process where I make it to move, but the most important part is to do it by my hands. So it's very important for me.
That's why I'm also think that the slowness of the animation, because as we all know, that animation is very like slow process of creating images, as far as I remember from what I think about animation, that animation is like slow process of telling something when you really create without computer, like for example.
Yeah.
I think that is also the thing who you like appreciate, and this is the slowness of this medium, and that is why you were like really very close to this medium of animation.
Yeah, it's like you have to do it by yourself at home. You have to spend some time with that with the material, with the drawings, with the paintings, and I like also some kind of improvisation. For example, I have some narration, some audio recording, and I know what I want to, like which kind of symbols or what kind of images I want to use. But I like also the like the spontaneous like improvisation in the process of animation, like during the process you have some idea and you can express it somehow. Like it's not so like cold, the animation, that you can feel somehow the human touch in that animation.
Yeah, that is really key to that intimacy that you create. And
yeah, intimacy. Yeah, maybe that's the word. Yeah.
Personal storytelling. It's not only personal from your place, but often from what the people, like we saw with the Somalia woman. This is very personal life stories where we're really right on the edge of life here. And that animation not only is a way that you can express that rawness, that place in life where is edgy, it also draws us in as a viewer and connects us in a way that I don't think would be possible if you were working in a slicker way, if you were, animating in a way that was completely digitized. I think the hand in the work is really key to this storytelling, and I appreciate it really quite a bit, and allows us to be in the lives of the people you're talking about, interviewing, working with, in ways that we perhaps wouldn't be otherwise.
Yeah, because the stories are most often intimate, so that's why I'm using that kind of also working method.
And the fact of instability of an image, which also comes through working with this crumbly materials, that you have the sand and poppy seeds you also used on tablecloths to add your touch to the imagery, is also interesting as a metaphor for the mechanisms of memory, right? And the evasiveness of memory, the instability of the image. And since you engage with the stories and histories, this connection is also very valuable on a metaphorical level.
Yeah.
Is there anything, Daniela, that you can think of that you would like to share? I mean, we have an international audience. Yet, I'm curious, like about working through lockdown, working through COVID, or, being a mother, and working. Is there anything that we haven't really touched upon that you feel is important to your process or artistic work?
Maybe also that you were like in this very like tough motherhood stuff, that you were part of some huge project. How it was for you, if you felt like more stressed about it, or like more that you have some chance to show something what you are working on.
Would like to see like more images of what I'm working on now, or
it was I think that it was just question from
yeah.
If you just want to share something more, or how, if you have some feelings about last year, which were
Yeah, I think for me, as I'm a mother and I'm taking care of small children, the situation didn't change a lot, because as I'm somehow isolated, because I'm mother and I can't go out in the evening for some cultural events, or it helped me somehow, because many events became online, so I could talk with the people online and I couldn't go there personally with the children. So for me, it was somehow very helpful that online possibilities to work, and so I continued. I continue working as before. I have my working time in the evening when my children sleep. So I think the most important is to have possibility or somebody wants to make exhibition, or you have some possibility to present yourself. So not to do it just for yourself, but to have motivation to work. So that's the most important thing. So it's important to continue in your work, but you have to have also some input to do it. Yeah.
Motivation.
Daniela, thank you so much for sharing your work with us. We were so fortunate to have you as a resident at Residency Unlimited. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Lucia, for being on a panel with us together. And thank you to everybody who's joining us now and later after the recording of this talk is posted online. We look forward to following your new projects, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So yeah, please
Thank you.
come visit our next events at Residency Unlimited. Bye.
Bye.